Yeah, exactly. It's like, robots. Why did it have to be robots? This is why I hate machines.
Exactly.
Remodeling machines.
Remodeling in general. That's my robot. That's my machine. Okay,
right,
so
Decepticons.
Decepticons, transform and rise up. Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike!
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome back for another thrilling episode of Two Mikes, Two Furious Animated Transformers. My name is Mike Seibert, and with me, as always, is Michael Andrews. And you know what? We're just going to pick up right where we left off as we continue our coverage of Transformers Animated Season 2, Episode 1, as we discuss the namesake of this episode. I might even call them titular. Join us now as we meet the Elite Guard.
Right. Well, and enough pleasure delaying on my part. I've been building up this moment because I love this. You know, the hatch opens, the steam comes out, and you see what is my favorite Transformers insignia in all of. Maybe I have one that I like a little bit more, but the Autobot Elite Guard symbol with the Autobot symbol with the wings sort of coming off of it.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss, French kiss. This is what I love the most. I mean, when I think about Transformers tattoos, this one's top of the list for me.
Yeah. It's cool. It's really cool. And it immediately, just from like a visual cue, looks decidedly different than what we've seen so far. This is something that has like, rank and power and significance.
Yeah. So it comes through the steam. It's this great shot. And then, we start rising up and boom, we get Sentinel Prime, my favorite character, at least favorite designed character. That's so awesome to see. Then we get a new bot that we don't know who this is yet. That's very exciting. And then, oh my freaking God, Ultra freaking Magnus with his freaking hammer. Like, yeah, baby, this is what I came for. This is what I bought my ticket for.
Yeah.
Comes down the ramp, all his glory. So we have the Elite Guard as we're seeing them. So the new face is Jazz. We've seen Sentinel. We know Ultra Magnus. We know Ultra Magnus only from like clandestine calls. He's always been a little pop up on an instant message from Ultra Magnus type of a thing. But now we get this new bot. Did you right away, Mike, know that this was Jazz? Was this, I guess I've had, the opportunity for multiple viewings. Did you go, oh, Jazz, when you first saw this character?
Oh yeah. I mean, so it's like one of the things that we've talked about lovingly about the TFA designs is, for the most part, even though there are liberties taken, they still evoke the spirit of the character. I would still say the exception to that is Prowl. Like, I guess he's the exception that proves the rule instead of the exception to the rule. But like Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, Ratchet, Megatron, Starscream, even Blitzwing. All of those, Black Arachnia, all of those characters, even though they are put through the Derek J. Wyatt kaleidoscope and through the Transformers animated prism, they're still easily identifiable as those iconic characters. And this take on Jazz is very much the same thing. It's like, when you see a dude standing there with race car bits and a bitchin' visor, it's Jazz. Yeah. It's like you can look at that and it doesn't help that I've seen Jazz toys already and all that other stuff. But still, it's like I know Jazz is part of the cast. But yeah, no, I guess since we're here, I guess we could kind of talk a little more about the character designs, because we're seeing them like, kind of here, like basically in a hero shot, literally.
Yeah.
And yeah, they Jazz looks so cool. And like I've seen so much fan art that has recontextualized Jazz as like a human former type thing, usually with like a lithe bodysuit and stuff. And I could see where that aesthetic comes from now, because like in a weird way, and this isn't it's not a criticism, but of the characters we've seen, Jazz actually looks the most human. He looks
Right.
like a dude doing cosplay, or like a dude that's almost like a cyborg type thing, because like everything from like his chest down to his legs, just with like the sleekness, where no belt, no space diaper, no nothing. It's just
Right.
it almost kind of looks like Nanosec in a way, just in terms of like how sleek his design is. And what I love, not to jump too far ahead, but like that is for like a very specific reason, that they add some new cool stuff to Jazz's character. But yeah, no, I love everything about this design. Like, you give me the visor and you give me the vague Porsche front. Like, there are certain design cues that I like. Like I like the Datsun Bros with like, Prowl and Blue Streak and Smokescreen with like their door wings and stuff.
Yeah.
So if like a TFA version of like Blue Streak came out, and like if he had like the car parts and the door wings, I'd be, that's Blue Streak, that kind of thing. To me, like with those specific style of headlights and the visor, it's like, that's Jazz. But then you look at it and they add new stuff like the headphones that he's got.
Right.
Like if you look like his head crest and stuff, it looks like he's got headphones built in. It's a very well designed character. I love this take on Jazz. And we'll talk about Sentinel more, because like we've seen him already. So
yeah.
But we'll have more to say in a bit. But like this is, I think, the first time we've seen Ultra Magnus in full. Like you said, he's always been in like Zoom calls from like like the from the neck up, basically. But
Ultra Magnus, you're muted.
I can't deal with that now.
No, well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that line, because how can you not when we're talking about Ultra Magnus? But the design is beautiful. But want to get into the voices real quick, because we do get a soundbite from all the new characters right in this hero shot. It's like a vocal hero shot too. So you get Ultra Magnus sounds very Robert Stackish right off the bat. Definitely has that cadence. And I didn't know who voiced him until I looked it up for this episode. Good old Jeff Triple Threat Bennett. Doing another voice here. So yeah, he's the voice of Ultra Magnus. Didn't see that coming. Very, very surprised.
He's everybody at this point. I mean, you said triple threat. It's like quadruple threat. Let's go through it. You've got, he is the angry archer. He's Captain Fanzone. He's Prowl. He's Soundwave, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
And now he's Ultra Magnus. So that's an infinity gauntlet of iconic characters for Mr. Jeff Bennett there.
Really very different characters too. Never would have guessed. Well, I hadn't until we started doing this show. I never would have guessed that this was all the same guy. They're so different from each other. And then Jazz gets a really cool celebrity voice here. We got Phil Lamar, Big Daddy here of voice acting. I most notably think of maybe isn't everybody's, but Kit Fisto from Clone Wars. Kit Fisto is my favorite Jedi character, and so that they got Phil Lamar to do the voice of that was a great. And he also voiced Hermes on Futurama, and I think that's why he probably got the voice of Kit Fisto from Clone Wars. And he's also an excellent Green Lantern in my favorite animated series, The Justice League.
Oh my gosh, iconic. Yeah, the John Stewart Green Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean like Phil Lamar is one of those folks that's kind of like transcended. He's kind of like in that upper echelon of folks. Like he's done TV work. He's prolific, iconic voice actor. People forget sometimes that he's in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, he takes a unfortunate car ride with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. It's a very small role, but it's like
Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Why the fuck you do that?
I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident.
Oh man, I seen some crazy ass shit in my time, but this.
Chill out, man. I told you it was an accident.
Poor Marvin. Pour one out for Marvin. But
right. Well, I was gonna say, put on a tux because we're about to date ourselves. He's an alum of Mad TV, Mad TV sketch comedy, and I was gonna say, are you Mad TV fan, or were you like, are you team Mad TV, team SNL when it comes to sketch comedy?
I'm not partisan. Like, I remember being super into Mad TV like the first season, since it's Mad, like I was really into the parodies and stuff. Like I still think about like Gump fiction like all the time. Like
this summer, you won't know the Gump until you see the fiction.
Yeah. And
right.
Like that's like one of the more iconic bits that this sticks with me. And I believe Phil Lamar actually is like the Samuel L. Jackson character in that parody, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that fits.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it as much as anything else. I don't. I'm not a huge SNL guy. I'm not really a huge late night weekend sketch comedy guy, just like in general, unfortunately.
Well, I am, if it's not clear from every quote or joke I ever tell. But
I was gonna say, tell me more.
I'm not going to go into it now. But if you ask any of my coworkers, I romanticize quite a bit about Saturday Night Live. Like everything about Saturday Night Live fascinates me. The fast writing process, the after party, the live performance. I just think it's the hardest job in Hollywood. Yeah, I could go on, but I won't. But it was cool. I guess long story short, it is exciting to see Phil Lamar in another role, in a Transformers role. Finally, we scored him, the big voice actor Phil Lamar.
Yeah, well, and in a important role and an iconic character, because you think of the echelon of Transformers characters, and while Jazz for most isn't necessarily like at the top, for me he's like the top of the next tier. So meaning like, you got like, I don't know, your top sevens, like Optimus, Bumblebee, Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, Grimlock.
Yeah.
I guess Jazz would maybe be number 7 on that, something like that. That's unranked, by the way. That's just off the top of my head of like characters you think of when you think of the Transformers. Who comes to mind? Yeah, totally. The dinosaur guy, the cassette guy, the red truck guy, the gun guy, the jet guy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, it's interesting in both of these vocal performances for Phil Lamar as Jazz and also Jeff Bennett as Ultra Magnus. They are evoking the spirit of what came before without doing a complete impression. Actually, I'm going to walk that back, because Jeff Bennett is just straight up doing a Robert Stack impression. I mean, it's like there's no two ways about it. So I think I need to uncouple that from the Phil Lamar discussion, because what Phil Lamar is doing is he's doing a riff on Scatman Crothers, but not making a specific acting choice to not do exactly the same thing. It's a little less, if I could use a term to not sound bigoted, but it's a little less jivey than Scatman Crothers, because like, that guy was like cool as a pack of menthol cigarettes. It's just like, There's just something about that.
Sort of a radio DJ almost, or of that time period at least. Absolutely.
And an iconic performance for an iconic character. So I like the choices that Phil Lamar makes in that, like, again, you can hear it and it sounds like it, and it sounds like how it's supposed to, but it doesn't sound as stereotypical. And it also doesn't sound like he's just trying to do the same thing. You can hear the acting through the voice work. It's like, so if this was like a biopic type of situation, it's like, you would you would appreciate the nuance and subtlety, whereas again the Jeff Bennett Ultra Magnus is very unsubtle.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I was really vibing with it, especially like the this exchange on the ramp tells you everything you need to know about these characters, because like one of the things that's so iconic about Jazz is like he loves Earth. He loves Earth culture. And like even here when Sentinel's like, oh God, they're gross. He's like, what's going on here? You know, I really want to check this out. This has really got my curiosity aroused. And instead we have legislation about slime and whatnot.
Yeah. It almost makes you wonder about the modeling of Jazz and even in universe, like, did he sort of already have this affection towards other species or organics, this sort of organics obsession that we see him come to later? Maybe that was kind of choosing how he presents himself as a transformer, and it works out to his benefit, because the very thing that he becomes interested in, also welcomes him, and maybe his presence, his appearance sort of, takes its cue from that.
Exactly. And through this, though, we get a glimpse into Sentinel's mindset, and you get to see a display of his bigotry and his prejudice.
Yeah.
And what you realize is that Ultra Magnus might have a little bit of that as well, because immediately, like, it's like, so the Autobots, roll up and they salute, and it's like, oh man, Supreme Commander, great to see you, and all that other stuff. And, all business, no sentiment. It's like,
it's an Jazz, set up a force shield to quarantine us from those organics.
Gross.
Yeah.
It's like those things look disgusting.
Yeah. And And to that effect, though, it also makes sense, because we also see Sentinel, we know why Sentinel has that approach. And I think that was a really smart point to be like, yeah, he is the shitty character here. He is the one that's like very anti-human, anti-organic, but at the same time, he's the one that's had the run in. Optimus even had to overcome this a little bit. Sentinel, his fear and bigotry got to go unchecked back on Cybertron.
Yeah, and I do kind of like this this line from Fanzone here while this is happening. He's like,
robots. Why did it have to be robots?
Yes, that's such a great line.
He's had his fill of robots. It's not quite a "this is why I hate machines." I mean, we're gonna get a real good one later, but
yeah. Well, yeah, it was almost sort of like a well, it was unexpected, right? It was time for him to get his signature line, and he gave us that instead, which was very funny and very surprising for me. I like that a lot.
He improv'd on the day.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it was. A real yes and situation.
Well, what I was trying to get to is sort of like the writer even was like, subverting expectations, right? He's like, oh, this is the perfect place to drop the fan zone line. I'm not going to do it. He sort of Last Jedi'd it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, and again, from what, spoilers alerts for later in the episode, it's like, in a sense, I wonder if he wrote it here, and then it's like, no, let me do it here, like save it, that kind of thing. Cause that plays so hard when it happens. But basically, like this force shield is erected. Sorry, can't get in, which immediately causes tension. And it's like, is it here where the decision is made? It's like, oh well, yeah, decontaminate these grease goons, or whatever slanderous terminology they come up with for these guys.
Yeah. So the bubble goes up. Sorry's on the outside. Our heroes get decontaminated. And something very important, just a nice little scene here. Bulkhead whispers to Bumblebee how Sentinel doesn't remember them.
And that's just how I want to keep it.
And I think that's a great little secret foreshadowing of what's to come. But that's just another example of, in this show, something that is going to pay off later that I totally missed the first time around. Really great writing.
Well, and it's funny because like when I watched the episode first, I had forgotten the links of communication after they find the Allspark in that first episode. It's like, so I thought that's what that was a reference to, where it's just like, oh yeah, that time that Sentinel knew we had the Allspark, he surely he knows the crew manifest of that particular space bridge repair crew.
Yeah.
But
well, and it could easily be that, right?
But it seems that there's more than meets the eye with this particular thing. I like this bit here where they're getting sprayed down, and it's an audio blink and you miss it. Like everybody's grumbling about it, talking about how it's all excessive. They think it's excessive, and Prowl says here it's like, it's not like we've got space barnacles. I don't know if you
I didn't
caught
catch that at all. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Prowl's got like a mouthful of water, and he's just like, it's not like we got space barnacles or anything.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you say?
I know, right? But Sentinel is just taking all of the delight in this, calling them grease grunts and just being a real asshole about it. And at one point he tells Optimus like, oh,
can't risk an infestation, old buddy. Take it like a real bot.
And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, he's real cantankerous here. He's a real old bot. This guy. He is a boomer bot as they come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we find out from this scene after the decontamination that the elite guard's arriving in response to sort of a distress call. Basically from the first episode of TFA, like I guess it's implied that they've sort of been tracking the Allspark this entire time, or tracking this crew down to get to Earth, and they're sort of arriving, just on time, quote unquote.
Right.
A little late to the party, but fine.
That's all right.
And so, but it's great. It makes for great tension, because here's our beloved crew trying to explain that the Allspark was destroyed in battle with the Decepticons. Sentinel doesn't buy it. There's no proof of it now, right? Like, there's no Allspark fragments. There's nothing to show for it. There's no Decepticon signatures anywhere on Earth. And that is really interesting, because now we're like, well, what happened to them all? That's a really great little mystery nugget. I love when they do little mini cliffhangers like that. And Bumblebee thinks it's because, I think this is great, because Bumblebee honestly thinks it's like, it was us. We took care of the problem, but nobody's buying that. I don't even know if Bumblebee himself buys that, but the question's raised, and then lo and behold, we get cut to Lugnut and Blitzwing in a cave, and we're like, okay, we're going to get some answers right away. Nice little payoff.
I had a little bit of a different take on the climax of that scene, because like something we had talked about very early on that you've reminded us several times of, Michael Andrews, is that Decepticons are the boogeyman. There are very few Autobots who have actually seen Decepticons.
Right.
And so to me, the attitude of both Sentinel and even Ultra Magnus, like in my notes, I wrote in all caps, Ultra Magnus is a dick. Sentinel is a dick. Because like both of them are in tandem. Like I was kind of off put by the level of disbelief that these guys have, and the lack of concern that they have found this crew of Autobots. Like, regardless of the Allspark, regardless of the Decepticons, these Autobots have been missing for over 50 years. Now, we've discussed the passage of time in the past, but again, like I'm put off by the coldness of, obviously Sentinel I get, because he's got beef, but like Ultra Magnus, the Magnus, the supreme commander of the Autobots, being so dispassionate about his troops is really kind of upsetting and speaks to his character. But I also thought that, you throw in like, has Magnus seen Decepticons? Has Sentinel seen Decepticons? I don't know who has had interactions with Decepticons at this point. So right. I think there is a little bit of like, I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe that Megatron is alive. I don't want to believe that the Decepticons have somehow returned. I mean, they're being kind of like flat earthers at this point. It's like, I just keep my head in the sand. And it's just like, I'm just going to stick to my beliefs. I don't know if this is shades of the corrupt Senate from like the IDW comics, but it seems like the apathy of these two guys is a little upsetting.
Well, I think it's two things. I think it is that no one's seen a Decepticon in a long time. It's kind of bullshit at this point. But I also think you have to remember that we're sort of seeing a current military commander seeing one of his dishonorably discharged troops that he hasn't seen in a long time. The backstory between him and Optimus is, I'm sure, he should be there instead of Sentinel, I think, is the vibe that we're getting. Like he should be Ultra Magnus's right-hand man. There's probably a level of disappointment that Ultra Magnus feels in Optimus that is even worse than just a normal discharge troop. That was probably going to be his Vader, for lack of a better reference. And now he's here just talking out his ass about boogeymen, as you said.
That's interesting. I wonder if in subsequent episodes I pick up on that a little more than I did, because like I think I was too focused on the bigotry and complacency and apathy of Ultra Magnus and certainly Sentinel. But like, I mean, again, Ultra Magnus does not seem like he's concerned with a lot. It really is kind of like, we mentioned the I can't deal with this line earlier from 86 movie Ultra Magnus, and that was a line given out of frustration. I feel like this version of Ultra Magnus would say the same thing, but not out of emotional outburst or frustration, but out of apathy. This Ultra Magnus seems to be incredibly aloof. Like, as we discuss the actual action of the episode, if you notice his movements, he doesn't move a lot. Like literally his static pose is just, holding the hammer and, standing, it's fascinating that like there's obviously like the comparisons to Thor, cause he, wields a seemingly mystical hammer in some way. But my take, at least in this early going of meeting Ultra Magnus, he's not Thor. He's Odin.
Oh, 100%.
He's the Anthony Hopkins Odin. Again, very very detached and emotionless and aloof. Very interesting.
Yeah, and to carry that metaphor a little further, I think he wanted to pass that hammer to Optimus, and I think that's where some of the tension here we're seeing.
That's interesting. I love all that. That's going to be an interesting prism to look at this dynamic through as we continue.
So yeah, we cut to Lugnut and Blitzwing in a cave. This sort of answers, at least partially, that the Decepticons weren't destroyed, weren't blown up completely. We have two mostly whole robots right off the bat, Lugnut and Blitzwing. But it raises even more questions because they're not dead, but they're avoiding the signature traces somehow. Then we pan back a little further. We find out Megatron is still there, answering the question by saying that the carbon deposits, this cave that they're in, must have carbon deposits that are shielding them from the detection. So now they have time. They can buy their time and regroup and come up with a new plan. And that's exactly what we see happening here.
It's interesting that we see that Lugnut is always spoiling for a fight, but you could also tell right away that these cons are not quite back up to snuff. Dude's arm falls off like in the middle of like, oh, glorious purpose and stuff. And and to Lugnut's credit, it does nothing to deter him.
Right. He also still has a major crush on Megatron. That becomes clear right away. So that's kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
And he's very curious to hear about Megatron's new plan. And it sounds like Megatron's got a sight set on Cybertron. With Allspark gone, Megatron is looking into space bridge technology. It looks like it's sort of almost a Dark of the Moon plot where they're trying to bring Cybertron back or like jump to it or use the space bridge somehow in the plot. Isn't that also that G1 plot too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Countdown to Extinction.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Or Something to Doom or some such like that. I always get those two.
Ultimate Doom. I think I'm thinking
Ultimate
of
Doom, which I
Anthem episode.
Yeah, and I always get those two mixed up. But it's interesting too because like I appreciate Megatron's self-awareness here because he says he's like,
two things led to our defeat in the Great Wars: the Allspark and the Autobots' exclusive space bridge technology.
I find this phrasing interesting. He says their exclusive space bridge technology. And I think that's kind of an interesting subversion because space bridge tech is, for fans of a certain age, usually associated with Decepticon technology.
Yeah, right.
Very similar to like Energon cubes. You know, it's like that's something that's more associated with Decepticons than with Autobots. So like when Optimus says in like the opening of Transformers the movie, we don't have enough Energon cubes to power. I'm like, I remember being like 7 being like, why do Autobots need Energon cubes? That's weird. But anyway, it's like, but yeah, no, I've always associated space bridge technology with Decepticons. So it's interesting to have that flipped, and for Megatron to acknowledge that is specifically Autobot exclusive technology. Like they haven't tried to come up with their own answer over these millennia. It's odd, but he says something to the effect that he during his time, all incapacitated and wired to the World Wide Web, eBay. He got his digital hands on some space bridge schematics, but that they're incomplete. But dude's got a plan, and it's none other than the proclaimed master of reverse engineering himself. Isaac Sumdac has been living in a jar this whole time, like a Oompa Loompa or something.
Yes, to tie it all back to reverse engineering porn, we got the number one authority in reverse engineering, Mr. Sumdac himself. I think I wrote down that this is really smart, believable. This is a great little plot. Like, yeah, obviously Megatron has had a problem cracking code of this Autobot exclusive technology. Yeah, let's bring in the guy that made his whole career on it.
Yeah. A weird point of order thing I want to discuss here, because I know earlier in the episode we spent a disproportionate amount of time discussing the amount of time that has passed since the conclusion of Megatron Rising Part 2 at the beginning of the Elite Guard. And I thought we had it pretty well nailed down. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not so sure right now, because look at the state of disrepair of the Decepticons. Blitzwing, Lugnut's arm keeps falling off. But when last we saw Megatron with Isaac Sumdac as his captive, he was looking like the end of the it's over Prime, one shall stand, one shall fall fight with Optimus. Like he was pretty beat up, like cracked armor, little and again we discussed it at the time that it was kind of like more that visual cue to Transformers the movie, but like here though totally fine.
Yeah, well, and also Isaac Sumdac was also a cradled blubbering mess in his hand, wasn't really up to preparing or reverse engineering space bridges. But I think a little bit what we're seeing here is sort of like, to throw it back to Last Jedi again, that's sort of not exactly in tandem, right? Like Rey finds Luke Skywalker, but it's not the exact time that Finn's waking up on the spaceship across the galaxy. I think we're seeing that here too. I think we're seeing a little bit like of a time slip of answer the question where the Decepticons were, but they're out of sync with what's happening with the Autobots. A little bit. Maybe that's me sort of reverse engineering the situation, but
that's what happens in that movie. Yeah, no wonder I don't like it. Good Lord. It's a real Dunkirk situation. Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk follows like 3 different events happening in time, but they're out of phase, and there's like chirons to tell you where it's like, 1 day before, 1 week before, 1 hour before, that type of thing. So it's like the groundwork is laid. So when you check in with them and you see them, I mean, the payoff is that, the storylines do kind of converge, but like you kind of know that up front.
Right. Or it's another Last Jedi situation where Rian Johnson just didn't like where the scar was placed on Kylo Ren. They didn't like the idea of dinged up Megatron being seen first. So now they've made him look nice. It's one of those two, but both things at the Last Jedi, right?
Yes. But I do like this exchange between Isaac Sumdac and Megatron, because he's like, hey man,
You cannot trick me into helping you this time, Megatron. The Autobots will come for me.
I am wise to the game. But then Megatron drops this bit of knowledge on here, and it's it kind of cuts to the bone, and it cuts to, we spent so much time talking about the timing of things, but in either reality, nobody is looking for Isaac Sumdac. Nobody seems to be concerned other than his daughter. Not the Autobots, not the police, not anybody. Nobody seems to be interested in finding this guy. And Megatron cuts right to the bone, and he's like, hey man,
Why do you think that is? Could it have something to do with the fact that you resurrected their worst enemy?
that kind of thing. So I like, again, I really enjoy this version of Megatron, because like he's a planner, he's a schemer, but he's a sassy boy when he wants to. Like he's got a cutting wit when he wants to.
Again, that theater kid analogy is really sticking here.
I wish there's a version of this now where it's like he leaned into it a little more, where he'd be like, oh, don't you wonder why nobody's looking for you?
Yeah.
Hey, I wonder why. Could it be that you resurrected their biggest villain ever?
Whips his head around backwards. He's been workshopping this character for a while.
Yeah. Yes.
No, that's great. Yeah,
gosh.
But it is a really cool. It is kind of a chilling moment, because he's basically saying like, yeah, your only usefulness to anyone is to me. And the only way you're good to me alive is if you're working on the space bridge. It's a great threat. It's a great motivational threat.
And I was gonna say something else, but it's gone now. So I think
back
at this
to the
point,
elite guard.
we go back to the ship.
Yeah.
And my first note at the top of this new page is,
hear this.
Why don't they believe Optimus? Why don't they believe him? !
Sure. Well, I mean, again, other than being a disgraced soldier that is telling an absolute load of malarkey as far as they're concerned. I guess it is kind of hard to believe. And there's no proof, right? There's no visceral or visual proof to what happened. I was going to note that when we cut back, this is where they're rocking out to the Soundwave song, apparently.
I'll give you points for creativity on your bogus story, Optimus, but where's your proof?
Did you catch that? It's like it's his little Soundwave trill is going off in the cockpit.
No, I missed that.
I don't think they're actually listening to it as much as they're using it as like part of the score, but it was just kind of weird to me that it was dropped in there.
Yeah, that's interesting, because like, generally huge peek behind the curtain, behind the scenes. I don't generally watch it with watch the episodes with the volume turned up a lot. Like, in fact, I watched this episode on the Roku channel specifically so I could get the subtitles on it, because you don't have captioning on Tubi.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like sometimes I generally watch these late at night. So sometimes like, and sometimes not in headphones, sometimes with. So sometimes little musical cues elude me sometimes. And
right. Well, and last time we heard it, it was like a plot point, right? It was fan zone listening to it inside of Bumblebee.
Yeah.
It's just part of the score.
That's wild.
It is wild.
I'm gonna have to try to keep track of that a little better, because it makes me wonder if that is some kind of secret foreshadowing type of thing. Because like, or like it's one of those things when Soundwave eventually returns, maybe there is like something that was there the whole time. It's like, oh yeah, this was always happening, in the background and actually built to something.
Right. So Sentinel is still grilling the crew here. He's getting digs on Optimus every chance he gets. Some real good ones too.
Sick burns. My
Yes.
God. I mean, Optimus himself is a fire truck, and he's going to have to take himself to the burn ward for like these sick burns that
Can't put that fire out.
you could save others from being burned, but you couldn't save yourself.
Yeah. So this is actually a great face-off, and it's also kind of tragic a little bit because just as we're seeing Optimus slip into this role of capable leader, someone that's deserved of his crew's respect, his past coming back to haunt him. His literal superiors are dropping in to tell him he's a failure. It's sad. It's sad. We finally got Optimus where we wanted him to be, where we expected him to be, and he's just shut down instantly. It's brutal.
Yeah, and I think it's at this point where you really kind of get from a sense that Jazz is kind of like the true neutral here. Like, it's like, things come to blows, and it's always Jazz that's kind of like, putting himself in the middle, but like it almost like comes to blows where it's like, oh no, I'm mixing that up with Bulkhead. Because like Bulkhead is telling Optimus, he's like, dude, stand up for yourself. And he's like, Optimus is like, nah, it's not worth it. He's like, I forget what it was that sets Bulkhead off, but he or maybe that's all later because I don't see it in this part of my notes. But anyway, yeah, there's like this would-be brawl where it's like, everybody's holding Bulkhead back, everybody's holding Sentinel back.
Yeah. It is weird to kind of see this sort of exchange, and it's really weird to see how Sentinel has become the voice in Ultra Magnus's ear. And again, if you think of it in the context of that should be Optimus making, whispering in the ear of the general here. You can kind of see where Sentinel gets to this point of like, yeah, organics are bad. Optimus is full of shit. We don't need to be doing this. Actually, kind of makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it really does. And the extra perspective on that also is that in my version or characterization of Ultra Magnus is that he's so disinterested. He's more than happy to let Sentinel take this off his hands. It's like I gotta deal with like Cybertronian councils on urgent matters and all this other stuff. I'm assuming there's always urgent matters going on, that he has more important things to do at all times. And he's just like, it really is kind of like a Emperor Vader thing where it's just like, I will send my apprentice Darth Maul. He will find your lost ship. That kind of thing where it's like, I mean, Palpatine was a master delegator, and I wonder if Ultra Magnus is just doing good management here, where it's just like, I just got to delegate that.
Right. Well, maybe they took his most famous line from the 86 movie and made it his whole thing, right? I can't deal with this right now. They're like, this is his thing. He just can't deal with any of it. Too busy.
So that's going to be his like 1 minute manager book, like a little 100-page handbook that they hand out to all middle managers. And it's just, I can't deal with this right now. How to win at management, and it's just Magnus standing there with the hammer.
And the last chapter in the book is like, you can deal with this now.
You can deal with this. But this is around the time that they scan Earth modes. And that's the other thing too. So it's like, Sentinel's like, oh.
As you know, I scanned some typical Earth vehicles, sir, so we won't attract attention to ourselves.
Good work, Sentinel Prime.
Like that whole, and it's interesting because like when we talk about Transformers, and it seems like your alt mode is something that's very personal to you. Like, see any of our discussions about Transformers Earthspark, where there's like a several episode arc about like what your alt mode means for you and the angst and consideration that goes with choosing one, and do you choose the right one? So it's interesting to come off from something like that, like like some of the angst that Jawbreaker went through, to this where Sentinel's just like, yeah, I scanned some stuff, whatever, let's go.
Yeah,
it's very interesting to see that dichotomy there. But I do love this scene where Magnus is like, oh, hey, terrific, thanks, Sentinel. And then they change into their alt modes. And it's a really cool transformation sequence. But like these vehicles that they have, like I can't
subtle
even,
stuff. Subtle stuff.
to the point where like Bumblebee even calls it out. It's like, it's like real subtle, buddy.
Oh yeah, no one's gonna notice that.
Ultra Magnus becomes this large troop transport carrier thing, which, let me run this by you. We had talked about, you had talked about Dark of the Moon. This kind of, ironically enough, evokes Sentinel Prime for me. Like it has kind of like that kind of like rectangular slanted nose type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks like the Sentinel Prime fire truck from Dark of the Moon, just in terms of like the shape of the vehicle, which is fascinating to consider when you have actual Sentinel Prime there also,
right.
who just turns into a goddamn monster truck with a snowplow on it. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, this is, but that's classic Sentinel, right? Like what else could he be? Just something flashy and big and out of place in the city, with a big ass plow on the front.
Obnoxious.
What I found interesting was that, I always just, when I originally saw this, I always just thought Ultra Magnus's vehicle was just cool. I mean, I really liked it. I love the design of it. I love the look of it. I just thought cool sort of space vehicle, or slight that sort of near distant future cartoon version of a SWAT vehicle. But it actually is based off of a real vehicle called an HEMTT, Heavy Expanded Mobile Tactical Truck. This is from TF Wiki, but I Googled it. And it tracks. It does look like that. So accurate. maybe not needed in a city at this exact moment, but it is a cool real vehicle.
That's awesome. It's interesting in latter day Transformers, and it's hard to say modern Transformers because this was 15 years ago, but Transformers was initially, based on like, Diaclone and Microchange and all that stuff, where it was like real stuff with like, when you get into like Masterpiece figures, you run into like licensing problems and things like that, to where now like modern interpretations of G1 characters, they try to reinterpret the vehicle modes so they're not specifically that car. Like, Hound is a Jeep, but not like a capital J Jeep. Jazz is a sports car, but not specifically a Porsche, that kind of thing. And so it's fascinating to me to see that, they're really going for like a real actual vehicle, especially in a continuity that takes place in a farther flung future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sentinel and Ultra Magnus leave, and this guy, I mean, it's what I have several instances of my notes with regarding Sentinel Prime. I'm like, why does Michael Andrews like this guy? Because like he is the worst.
He is
the worst. Which
but
is probably
so
why
cool looking.
So in his monster truck snowplow mode, he's running into cars. Like not even, I mean, like he's not even, there's a difference between like avoiding them. He's not even avoiding, he's actively seeking them out. It seems to me like, being a monster truck. I guess that's what monster trucks do, I guess. But I just now pieced that together. I didn't necessarily clue that in at first. That car crushing is kind of part and parcel for being a monster truck, but these guys are jerks. These guys are jerks.
It really, there is sort of like a stereotype of like, the certain type of person that gets into, joins the National Guard or joins the police force because, they want to abuse their power a little bit. They want to, fix some shit around. And that's definitely Sentinel, right? When they come to this planet, their first assumption should be that these cars are like sentient life forms, right? But he doesn't give a shit. He's just plowing through them.
Yeah. It's like those could be people.
Yeah. And well, there's a couple of hilarious moments here when they're driving. I mean, the one where he just so brashly drives off the unfinished bridge. I love that scene. And it was really great too, digging into it a little bit, because it could have so easily have been a battle damaged bridge, but instead they made a point to be like, it's an unfinished bridge with signs
with
in
the
front
barriers
of you to stop you. He blew through all of those and just right over the edge. Love it.
Yeah. That seems to be Sentinel's character, where it's like full speed or nothing. And it's like, I don't have time to give consideration to anything.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of interesting, because now I want to go back and rewatch Along Came a Spider again, because to me this extra aggressive version of him kind of feels like a result of that. Like, he was brash and impulsive, but like here it's turned all the way up to where it's like, I won't even listen to reason or caution or nothing. I'm just going to drive through these signs like they're nothing. That bit later where he gets like a stop sign stuck in his shoulder, and he's like, why do they keep putting these up on the corners? They should stop doing that.
One on every corner. Like,
it's like, and just the refusal to see the pattern. And I don't think it's because he's a dummy. Sentinel isn't a dummy, but he is so brash and arrogant and so self-assured that like I mean, it's interesting to kind of like pick at the psychology of these characters, but I wonder if that's the guy that came back from the spider planet, where it's just like, I need to be this guy now, where it's like I'm going to push through this trauma through macho bullshit, through toxic masculinity, if you will. Like this guy's like he's an unchecked dude bro, big small dick energy, big dude bro energy, to where it's like, I feel like, but I also feel like though, there's a version of this where this is a defense mechanism for to deal with the trauma he endured. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. So moving right along, we move back to the Decepticons' makeshift lair, where we see Turncoat Sumdac is having trouble cracking the space bridge technology. Actually, let me do another take on that. I wrote down, I wanted to do one in my Trumpiest tweet voice. Pathetic loser Sumdac, traitor to his country, and a terrible father, by the way, can't even figure out the space bridge. I read an article about him once, couldn't even explain where the technology came from. Sad.
I was like, if you don't punctuate that with a sad, then what are we even doing? Oh my gosh. Well done,
I don't know what
friend.
about that scene evoked it, but I was just like, oh, this deserves a Trump tweet, this guy.
That's so good
here.
Oh man, well, we have to call it the failing Sumdac systems now. Anytime we talk about the company now, because like, but I do like this though. It's like there is a misunderstanding of Isaac Sumdac's skill set on the Decepticons' parts, because like, Isaac is even lamenting. He's like, dude, I work in servo mechanics. I don't know anything about teleportation or space bridge technology. What the hell is this stuff?
Yeah. Well, it's a plot stumbling point, or a moment that kind of like slows down the progression of things purposefully. But it also is very smart, because it forces Sumdac to look at his own failings, I guess. This is where it all coming from, is that, now he's kind of really seeing like, oh, I'm not the great inventor I've been boasting I am. I actually, now that I'm presented with a real, actual, technological feat, oops, I can't really help you here.
Right, exactly. Because I think it would be fair to say that he is still a gifted genius. Like, it's like, I think he still had an aptitude for robotics, but it's not finding Megatron's head and reverse engineering Cybertronian tech that made him a genius in robotics. I think he was already that, but it's what allowed him to go to the next level. Like, he probably would have spent his entire career making like, lame robots or something like that. But then it becomes Sumdac Systems with the, extra knowledge from the space technology. But like, again, it's like, I don't think that, he's as much a fraud as maybe he's occasionally presented to be, because you still have to have some kind of technological know-how. Like, if Ben Affleck and Paycheck, like if he's trying to reverse engineer a portable computer with like an AI assistant, he could take all the screws out of it and look at it, but if he doesn't have a fundamental understanding of how those systems even operate, then that's just that's just meathead Goodwill Hunting Ben Affleck taking apart a laptop. It's like, hey, what do I do with this? Applesauce. That kind now you like them apples, that kind of thing. So
applesauce, bitch.
So Isaac Sumdac is intelligent, but when faced with literal space tech, like literally out of this world technology, yeah, he is kind of out of his depth. But then you have this thing with this robot revolutionary here, where it's like, I call him the fuck no robot, where it's just like, what's in this box? Why is this robot carrying it? But it's just like, I've had it up to here with the likes of you people. And it seems like it's a response to him complaining, but Megatron knows better. Fusion cannons this dude right to death.
Right.
And
I love this because it plays two ways, right? Like, you can also see the version of Megatron that is just randomly blasting a bot apart that pisses him off. But then we find out it's actually for a smart reason, because within the fragments of this bot is an Allspark fragment. A little hint that maybe that thing wasn't completely obliterated when it was destroyed.
The prize at the bottom of the cereal box.
Exactly. So now we know that it's still around in a fleck of stardust, basically.
Absolutely, and it speaks to Megatron's kinship with the Allspark. Like, he senses it. He knows.
Yeah.
Like it would be just as easy for him to just smoke this robot, but like you said, it's with purpose. It's not just, we're far away from G1 Megatron just blasting his own troops just cuz, throwing a box at Starscream's head because it's 12:01 a.m. or something like that. It's not that. We're a bit away from that. So it's interesting to see that that's still kind of like cold, methodical purpose. And he rationalizes that if there's this fragment of the Allspark remaining, well, it stands to reason that
there may still be pockets of its energy scattered all over this city, all over this planet.
To which we see then this manufacturing plant, this assembly line, to where they're still making goddamn ED-209s. We're still making those police drones.
Haven't we had enough of this? I mean, how many more incidents are we going to have?
And I didn't catch this until my second viewing last night, but like because it's like you see the microchips being inserted into each drone, and it's like the third one that kind of glows with the with the the blue of the Allspark, but I didn't realize, because that's where I thought the fragment was at first. I didn't realize that it's actually the mechanical arm of the picker of the microchip inserter thing that has like a whole chunk of the fragment like stuck in the side. And that's how all of these drones together get infused with the power of the Allspark.
They're just getting a little sprinkle each one, just a little sprinkle of stardust for each one, a little fairy dust. So it's interesting. That means like there's a lot to go around, right? If one little fragment can do that, we're in trouble. I wonder if this is what they mean by defund the police. There's just too many police spots being made off the assembly line. But yeah, so this is this has some big connotations for it that, we could be seeing a lot more problematic devices moving forward. And relishing in this is Porter C. Powell, who calls Sorry to complain about the problem on the assembly line. And I love this scene because it is played so well by Porter C. Powell, a guy who is actually thrilled this is happening. This is playing right into his plan that will come up at the end of the episode. But it is, it's Christmas for him, but it's a nightmare for everybody else. Like, the last dregs of your dad's failing Sumdac Industries is about to take a hit here.
Not for nothing, to interrupt you just a quick sec to interject this joke here. Porter C. Powell, very Trump-esque.
Oh,
just
very much.
Not for nothing. Look at that dude. I mean, like between like the hair and his affectation, and I didn't realize, because anytime we had seen Porter C. Powell in season 1 episodes, it didn't really leave much of an impression on me. So it's like when you would talk about him, like, I guess, that kind of thing. So it never really stuck with me until now. And now I understand a little more about, how this character makes much more of an impact. But it's like, what is this voice? Like, does he, is there kind of like a weird bullshit Southern twang to it? It's very interesting. He's like, you declare.
Yeah, it's funny. It is funny you mentioned that, though, because I guess I never, when I was picturing his importance to the overall story of Transformers, everything I was thinking about was actually in season 2. Just from your fresh eyes on it, he's a very minor role in season 1. But now we're going to see him, the machinations of Porter C. Powell. That's what I'm looking forward to.
But yeah, so like you had mentioned earlier, the scene kind of rules because, like, through my lens, it's like, this is more Cartoon Network, Disney Channel bullshit, where it's just like, oh yeah, so we're gonna ask child CEO 8-year-old Sorry Sumdac to handle these problems, and she's just like,
fine, I'll do it myself.
It's just like, wait, what?
I think the Disney Channel version of that is cutting to her in like a pantsuit, and really being the leader, but she's just like, okay, why are you asking me? Like, I get it, but I'm 8, just for the record.
Right, yeah, I guess that's what I needed. Somewhere, somehow, for any of these characters to be like, I'm 8 years old. Let's not forget. And it felt to me in my early going that, like, the writers forgot about that and the characters forgot about that. But I'm coming around to your viewpoint in that, like, again, Porter C. Powell is moving chess pieces. Like, he's well, and ironically enough, he has nothing to do with this. Like, it really is like, Allspark gone amok type of thing. But yeah, it's still to his advantage and to his benefit.
Yeah, and I can prove that by every time we see him on a call, his lines are delivered with this smarmy, sort of smug, guess what's happening? Sorry. He knows exactly where this is headed.
Yeah.
And it does pay off.
Absolutely. So we get our first real key use in that, like, she, I
guess, yeah.
Well, I mean, she
as a blunt object a little bit, but yeah.
She cuts a hole in the force shield, which is
right.
Which I don't know. I thought that was kind of clever. She's just like snicked. Like I don't know if I've seen a force field be cut through like a knife before. I thought that was actually a kind of cool visual bit. And it's fascinating that, because it's Cybertronian tech, that either the shield is in tuned or the key is in something to where like it actually works. And she just walks through it like a curtain. But then,
actually, if I can jump in too, it reminded me of if you're a His Dark Materials fan, it's basically the subtle knife from that book series, which can sort of like cut, but it's such a sharp blade that it cuts between worlds, and that's exactly what it does in that. It sort of rips through this fabric that no one else can see or get through or anything. But I guess I thought it was cool. I think it's a cool scene. I don't get me wrong here. I was just kind of like you were positing, is it actually sort of an interaction from the key? Is it actually an Allspark interaction with the shield? Or is it just, hey, I've got some Cybertronian junk, so let's see if I can shove it through this laser beam? Because I didn't see anything visually from the key like coming to life or glowing or doing anything. It just sort of snicked right through there.
Yeah, in fact, she
letter opener.
Yeah, and she kind of like even like looks at the. She's like, I wonder if this will work. Maybe my key will work. Oh yeah, sure enough. I mean, like she's as surprised as anybody else.
Yeah, and she's in. Yeah. She goes back to what Sari's best at, which is slinking through hallways of Autobot ships.
And kudos to the art direction and the just the way this plays out, because like she is so cartoonishly small and these hallways are so cartoonishly large, almost like it's a cartoon. But no, I mean, it's like even like these hallways would be large for like large Autobots. Like I would imagine that like Ultra Magnus would walk through here and still have plenty of room. No shortage of space there. Very vast these hallways are.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was a great bit too, because it's sort of like her embarking on what you think is going to be like this long mission. I can almost hear like the Arrested Development narrator being like, sorry, had some investigation of her own, but then she's instantly trips the sensor. Like it's not, there's no quest here. She just trips the sensor and Jazz shows up and then everything unfolds. But I thought that was a great setup, because we're like, oh, we're going to get a side quest with Sari. Nope. She's caught instantly.
Yeah, instantly. And I love this interaction between her and Jazz, because it's like, contamination alarms are going off, and and Jazz is like cautious. He's like, ew, you stay the fuck right there. Just you stay right the fuck over there. You stay the hell away from me, goddamn space germ. And
he's been the only one. He's had Ultra Magnus and Sentinel in his ear now. Like they're bad, they're terrible, they explode, they shoot goo everywhere. You don't want to be around these. And now, I mean, as much as he's curious about humans and organics, he's also like, there it is. There's one.
Stay cool and roll back off the ship nice and easy like. And don't even think of spewing any of your slime at me.
I laughed disproportionately hard at the booga booga booga. She goes like, I mean, again, like, Sari has proven to be capable in her own right. She's outmaneuvered Colossus Rhodes, and she's had, any number of interactions, like getting out of situations like this. I mean, criminy, she outfoxed Black Arachnia. So it's like,
right.
So she's capable, and she's smart and has a quick wit, and she figures out immediately. She's like, wait a sec.
Oh, you're afraid of me, aren't you? Booga booga booga.
And uses that to her ultimate benefit right away. But great scene.
Yeah, it's gold. Yeah, so the Autobots show up, and there's this interaction here, a little bit of tension back and forth, but ultimately Jazz seems open to the idea that organics are cool. Maybe they're not so bad. Maybe humans are cool, and Jazz seems to be having like a Prowl moment.
Yeah,
right? He's sort of like. I guess I wrote down that I'd like to think that Prowl is just out of frame, rolling his eyes at the new guy, right? Like this is sort of a vision of Prowl X amount of months ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. And you're so right. And that's going to come into play a little bit later.
I was going to say another great thing about this scene, another alt mode.
Oh my
reveal.
God.
Another transformation in Jazz's sports car.
That car mode rules. And like you said, it's great vintage Jazz. It's like, I mean, characterization, it gives you everything you want. And he's like, yeah, man.
Any species that could come up with a sweet ride like this can't be all bad.
It's like, he is impressed with his alt mode. He really likes it.
Well, and we've talked about this sort of Transformer character, and what I like about some of the Michael Bay movies and the live action is that I like this idea of a Transformer that's interested in Earth's culture and tweaking their mode. And like right away we see him like, a sweet jacket. I want one, yep. And like puts on something cool. Like I love that version of characters like this.
And Jazz is the character you can do that with, because he's just, if you describe Jazz in one word, it's cool. Always cool.
Yeah.
So
it also plays into, I think it's also because we know this show's tailing or, on the coattails of the first live action movie. This is also sort of a version of that Jazz too, where that Jazz had sort of sampled, Earth culture and tones. And this is a cool place to kick it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of that Jazz too.
Huh. I'll allow it. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I like that.
Thank you.
So I write down in all caps, meanwhile on Dinobot Island, ! Question mark.
Yeah, they're really trekking some locales in this episode.
I paused it to see if like I had stumbled across like an hour-long episode. And I'm like, oh no, I'm halfway through a 23-minute episode. Okay, very good. Because it's just like, what is happening? There's like this whole dialogue between like, Optimus and Sentinel and Ultra Magnus. And it's just like, yeah, well, let's see if we could go see this so-called battle. And it's like, oh man, we got to be real cautious through here. And Sentinel's all bravado. He's like, I don't care about fucking Decepticons. And Optimus is like, dude,
not Decepticons, Dinobots.
And Sentinel again, he's like, the fuck is that? I don't fucking care. Whatever. Just dick swinging. Just like, I don't fucking care. It's like he's like at a drunk frat guy who's already like pulled his polo shirt open. He's just running around like chest exposed. He's like, I don't fucking care. I'll take you all on.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, even his shields are like the pop collar.
Oh my
right?
God,
like,
you're right.
This very fits this design choice. Oh man.
Oh
yeah. Wouldn't that be funny if like in his bot mode the shield is supposed to be one solid piece, but he like has split it into two, sort of popping a couple buttons open, Transformer style.
Oh my gosh.
That's perfect.
So good. So yeah. So they run into the Dinobots for like no reason. Because capitalism. We got to sell some toys.
Right.
But I wrote down in my notes, and again, this is kind of where I honed in on some of my characterization of Ultra Magnus that I talked about earlier. Wrote in my notes, it's hammer time, because like he does this it's a subtle version of the lightning attack that we'll see later, but still it's like I'm like, this dude just like Storm from the X-Men, that kind of thing? Because like you see like the clouds roll in and very interesting. It's like what
I think it's just so cool. I called it the fucking amazing electroshocker hammer of Thor, where it's just like, oh, like this light comes out of it and the Dinobots bow down to it. I was like, this is the Ultra Magnus I want to see.
Absolutely. It's pretty cool. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's pretty cool.
But yeah, it was a very like production value. It was quite the drawn scene for just a little glimpse of what his hammer can do.
I imagine we're going to see versions of that sequence many more times throughout the season. It's like much like transformation sequences. It's like, nope, they spent the money on this one. knowing that they're going to use it a bunch.
This is the fireworks at the end of the festival. They went all in on
yes. Yes, exactly. But it's fun. It's interesting because like I'm a little confused about the passage of time here because their whole thing is Optimus is going to take them to the Ark. And, because like that's pretty definitive proof of this Decepticon battle, which is the whole point of this. It's like, let me take you to Dinobot Island and I'll give you the proof you need. They don't actually do it. After they scare off the Dinobots, they're like, oh no, there's a problem at the ACAB robot cop factory. So we need to go. So they just leave.
Right. Well, and I wonder too if something was cut or if there's some subtext here for the Dinobots are proof enough. This is proof that of the Allspark fragments or that the Allspark did its thing. That there's something going on here. These new life forms are some sort of proof.
Sentinel remains unconvinced, I think, because he's just like, these fucking dinosaur robots, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, everything to be fair, this is the first thing that Optimus said was going to happen.
That's
right.
true.
Like this is the first, like any sort of proof that Optimus has been able to show.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think Sentinel will ever be convinced of anything Optimus says from here on out.
I guess I would have liked to have seen maybe like a cocked eyebrow from Ultra Magnus or something. It's like, what are these? Because like neither of them seems, because I mean, like these are new Cybertronian life forms. It's like you would think that would give you pause a little bit, and it kind of doesn't. I find myself disappointed by these two characters throughout this entire episode.
Sure. Yeah, I hear you. So back at Sumdax facility.
Yeah, lights and sirens.
Yeah, woo! Our heroes, plus Jazz, I guess he's kind of our hero now. They get attacked by Sumdax haywire robots. Sari's lamenting taking over CEO. Very believably. Yeah. So then this like kind of kick-ass little battle ensues. And then Prowl finally gets a line in this episode, which is nice.
Yeah. One.
Yeah. Right, real brief one. But then he gets into some ninja hijinks, so it's okay that he doesn't have any lines because, what we like.
Yeah.
So it's a badass scene, and we just think we're getting a little Prowl action, but actually it shows a little bit more about Jazz's character.
Yes.
Because he immediately identifies the move as the Metallicado 5 Servos of Doom maneuver, which is great because A, I like long-winded action names.
Yep.
B, it's a nod to Five Fingers of Death, the famous martial arts movie, and G1 Bludgeon's practice of Metallicado.
Yeah, I
So
lost it. I paused it and I lost it. I'm like, what? What did he say? It's like in the Solo movie when Amelia Clark's character, Kira, says like, oh yeah, I did some like Terrakasi on them. I'm like, the PlayStation 1 video game? What?
Yes, it's exactly like that. Yeah, it's a great reference. I'd also like to think it's a reference to Kill Bill. I can't remember the move from the finisher of Kill Bill, but I like that.
It's a very similar like 5 flavor fruit punch type of thing. It's like the 5 points of something. It's always in denominations of 5, it would seem.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess along with this, I want to interject. I've never really looked up Metallicado and its origins. For me, it was just always been a little like Easter egg throughout Transformers lore, but I never really like looked it up. And so I did look it up on TF Wiki. And the thing that I really liked about it was that it's from, apparently it's like a form of a Finnish word, which means loss of metal, metal. And I think that's so cool because I like it as, like knock your paint off metaphor, like loss of metal, like maybe they're fighting so hard the actual metal's like flaking off them. But I also like it as a play on the word metal, mettle.
Oh, sure.
I think that's really cool. And then I was, my writer metaphor brain just keeps going with it. I also like it. It's sort of like a way of saying they're transcending their metal bodies.
Sure.
Right. The loss of metal. They're becoming more than metal. They're shedding that physical state. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, but I was just like, oh, that's such a cool way to think about it.
I love all that because there is a fluidity and speed and technique to, you know, characters like Bludgeon and Prowl and certainly like Jazz, what we see here. Quick point of order thing from Kill Bill. It's the 5-point palm exploding heart technique that will kill opponents after they have taken 5 steps, as seen at the climax of Kill Bill Volume 2. But yeah, this, like I was very excited by like this entire sequence because, like, you know, you think you're just going to get some, you know, ninja nerd blows where, you know, Prowl goes Tasmanian Devil for a few, get some shurikens for my dude Michael Andrews, but then like Jazz is like, I like the cut of your jib, but he's like, watch this. And I remember you had said something like a year ago about like Jazz and his nunchucks, and I'm just like, I didn't really think anything of it because again, I'm trying to kind of like, you know, experience things as they come to me, but like, you know, the whole thing about how like they launch from his arm gauntlets and that whole sequence of just like, you know, how he can take care of these opponents with the quickness. And he says something over his shoulder. He's like, yeah, you know, your stuff is good, but, you know, and proceeds to mow through the drones. And he says like, well, you know,
I guess you never got that far in your cyber ninja training.
Yeah.
And that little bit of lore says so much because so far we've seen Prowl be the master, you know, stillness, then strike. You know, it's like so arrogant in his skills that he's gotten himself into trouble. And, you know, and always the competent fighter. And to now learn that Prowl at the height of his powers, which we've seen so many times now, he didn't finish his training. How badass is Jazz having be like the master of Metallicato? That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think it's cool to kind of see like now we're seeing why Prowl is on the Space Bridge crew. Like he's just as displaced as the rest of them, disgraced, if you will.
Yeah,
you know that now we're getting a little bit backstory about like, oh, something happened. He, you know, that wasn't an accident. This ninja is on this construction crew.
I had speculated earlier in the show that perhaps he was there for muscle, you know, meaning it's like, you know, you have like the one competent guy to, you know, keep an eye on these knuckleheads. But as it turns out, like you said, yeah, maybe he himself is a bit of a knucklehead. But when you flash back to Prowl, he mouth agape and like his visor flashes. He's in love with Jazz, right? I mean, like, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one way to take it.
Like,
sure.
absolutely. And, you know, I don't want to sound tacky or something like that, but like, you know, in other spots, we've kind of talked about like how the dynamic between Prowl and Bumblebee and the dynamic between Prowl and Bulkhead. And so, you know, I don't want to necessarily stick my neck out too far and speculate on Prowl's sexuality, but I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that a lot of our friends in the fandom haven't claimed Prowl as a queer icon. Because like, I mean, Prowl is an awesome character. And, you know, I said, you know, very early on, why is Prowl a dick? And you told me, you know, so he could be not a dick later. And we're already kind of there to where it's like, I get it. I like him. But there are like these little flashes. And again, maybe it's because like I hang out with too many folks in the fandom that do ship art and fan fiction and slash fic and all that stuff. So it's kind of like, to say nothing about consuming all of More Than Meets the Pod. It's like, you know, so my brain is kind of starting to get rewired to look for those things. And I would not be. It seems to be there is some queer coding for Prowl. The more I've seen of him.
That's interesting. Well, I'm excited because now you've given me like a new lens to look through, right? Like this is what I was hoping for from doing this show with you is help me see something I didn't see before. This is exact point of it. But while we're on Cyber Ninjas, I gotta say, you think I like shurikens, baby? Now there's nunchucks. Now there's
nunchucks.
Got some Michelangelo representation in this. Oh, I was so excited to see this. Especially that they're kind of like
laser
lightsaber.
Yeah, they're like lightsaber nunchucks. I mean,
oh my god, there's explosion in my pants here.
I mean, because like we've seen all kinds of zany lightsaber designs. We've seen like, switchblade lightsabers, double-ended lightsabers. We've seen like nightstick lightsabers, and my 12-year-old brain has been like, how come nobody's done lightsaber nunchucks yet? Well, first of all, you'd slice your saber, but yeah, it's really cool to see that, because like with that blue, turquoise, teal glow to it, you don't know exactly what that texture is. It's like, is it lasers? Is it electricity? It could be all of those things. It could be none of those things. It could just, he just might have glow sticks or something.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a raver, right? They're on strings. He's doing
putting on light shows for these Sumdac police drones.
Doing cyber ecstasy. I don't know. But yeah, I love Jazz. The toy is also great. It does the things we're talking about here. Those nunchucks are in the same spot and make part of the pipes on the car mode. Like that's all there in the toy. Very cool. Very cool.
That is so neat.
Yeah. So we back to the battle raging on. We have Optimus and Magnus accidentally teamworking each other.
Accidentally teamwork.
Accidentally teamwork each other. Get a little nice moment there. A glimpse of something that kind of we want.
Yeah.
But ultimately the Autobots are overwhelmed, right? This is like a last ditch effort. We need to get Sari inside to use her key to shut down the assembly line. That's our plan. That's our play.
So I was doing a little word play there early because you said accidentally, right? And I said Axio and Optimus enters the scene with boomerang axe right off the bat. I'm like, hell yeah. I
setting you up for the season.
Setting me up. It's like, set the tone. Let's go. But yeah, it's and it's this terrific moment too of the Earthbound Autobots and the Elite Guard, because it's just like, well, what do we need to do? Sorry, you need to use your key. And it's not Optimus like ordering her, saying like, hey man, you need to use your key. It's Sari saying like, it's my name. I'm the CEO of failing Subdac Systems. It's like, do you know who I am? I am, that kind of thing. And,
do you know who my father is?
Exactly. And she's like, well,
as long as this company's name is Subdac, it's my responsibility.
Okay.
Because like that trust has been mended. It's like they're back to being ride or dies. And, even Sentinel is like, dude, what the hell? You're gonna like follow the lead of this germ child person. It's like, what are you doing? And that's kind of where Optimus kind of stands up to him. And it's like, look, buddy, last time I checked, we get the reveal here. I mean, I already knew you had already told me it's, nomenclature and all that, but like Prime is a military rank and they share the same rank. And it's like, there is a part of me that wishes I didn't know that before that moment, because it is kind of a reveal. Like, you're dealing with Sentinel Prime, Optimus Prime.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's again, it's a 15-year-old show, but all I'm saying is like, it's that moment is given the reverence of like, oh, we're giving you new information. And it's like Sentinel does not outrank Optimus. He may have a better seat at the table, and he certainly has Magnus's ear. He's certainly his lieutenant, but they have equal power. They have equal rank. And Optimus puts his trust into his human friend Sari Sumdak and follows her lead.
Yeah, and maybe the most badass we've seen Optimus in a way, right? And it's not like a battle way, but it's just like him telling off Sentinel. It's like, fuck yeah.
The whole episode, since Sentinel shows up, Optimus has kind of like had his nose rubbed in it. And it's funny because Sentinel earlier said, like, take it like a real bot. The whole time, that's all Optimus has been doing is taking it like a real bot, just kind of like, all right, let's just, focus on the task ahead. And, I'm not going to try any waves, even to the point where like Bulkhead goes to pick a fight. And it's like, Optimus, stand up for yourself. And he's like, nah, we can't fight amongst ourselves and all that. But here is where he takes his stand. He's like, look, motherfucker, this is what's up. You don't know anything about what's going on here. I know a thing or two about a thing or two, and I trust Sari.
I may be an elite guard washout and a glitch detail flunky, but the last time I checked, you and I still have equal rank. So, Sentinel Prime, take your order and your condescending attitude and stick it in your hard drive. You're on my turf now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Love it. No, it's a great scene. It was a really nice payoff to sort of the timid Optimus all through the episode. Then we get a nice whammy there. That breaking point. It's very relatable. That breaking point of like, all right, that's it. You're a fuckhead kind of a thing. So I love that. And then Mike put up your plates. You're about to eat a delicious lunch of rad axe slashing up this console. And I like this scene because it does the same thing that Megatron did, right? Like that sort of like act of over violence to reveal the Allspark fragment in the helper bots. Optimus kind of does the same thing out of rage. He arguably more rage than Megatron had.
Yeah, because it's a melee weapon.
He's pissed. You're right. He's pissed at the situation. It was kind of him when he was chopping up that spider in the Halloween episode. He just slashes the hell out of this console, Kylo Ren style.
Yeah. Great reference. Yep.
Yeah. Finally, a Star Wars reference paid off. But so we get to see that Allspark fragment. But I just think it's such a cool juxtaposition how Megatron did the exact same thing, but it was like calculated, calm when Megatron did it, and here it's our beloved leader just going ape shit. He's like, fine, you see, there's the Allspark.
Yeah, and it's
great.
And it's a hunk of it too. Like whereas in like the helper bot, the Megatron finds it's a little tiny fragment. This is like a goddamn Superman crystal.
Yeah. It's a nice big chunk there. But it provides a little proof. It at least provides a little backstory to context to the story Optimus has been telling the Elite Guard.
Yeah. And speaking of the Elite Guard, you had mentioned that the Autobots were overwhelmed, but I don't think that these grease grunts were ready to see the full power of the Supreme Commander.
Oh, baby. I was. That was a little treat for old Mikey here. Let's see, how did I phrase it? I was like, Ultra Magnus gets to use his rad hammer one last time, fries everything to scrap. Now I know why they call you Ultra Magnus, as I get a boner because it was just an awesome payoff there. Talk about a climax.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting too, because like I have a couple things to say about the sequence, because I mean, obviously it's amazing and terrific and, visceral and satisfying, but it's like, one of these things where it's like, I don't recall if I see Ultra Magnus engaging in combat before that. Like, I don't know if he's like swinging the hammer at people or like, or anything like, I don't think you do. So my read on it is that he's been hanging out, just standing there the whole time, just watching, waiting for his moment. Like there's the episode of The Simpsons where it's like, it's like all the ninjas and stuff. It's like, what the?
Maybe we should go inside.
But Marge, that little guy hasn't done anything yet. Look at him. He's going to do something, and it's going to be good.
And it's very much that. But what kind of made me raise my eyebrow a little bit is, Magnus gives like this delightfully badass line.
Autobots, disengage and retreat!
Get the hell out of here. Enough of this. And then, he, again, not unlike Storm, he's like, heavens open up and strike down upon these drones. I mean, I would imagine like if there's like the Transformers animated video game where it's like a side scroller and like you do your special attack and just like, the lightning just comes down and fries all the bad guys and stuff. Yeah. You only get to like,
it's like a boss in like Altered Beast or something.
Yes.
Right? Like,
and you got to get more power-ups to be able to do it again. You only get like one per life or whatever.
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that because I was actually going to make that a counterpoint to maybe that's the implication is it's not something he can use all the time. It's not, it's not this god tier power. He's got to, sort of let it recharge. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's even why they showed him using it on the Dinobots so that here it was clear that he couldn't just whip it out again.
Yeah, because like what he uses on the Dinobots is certainly a muted version of this. Like you could tell he's truly unleashed something. I almost would have liked if maybe after he does that, he's got like a little wobble in his step, like it's really taken something out of him or something. You don't get that, but it would be interesting to see if this power is further defined as we go. But this reminds me of the scene at the climax of Iron Man 2. Where like, Tony and Rhodey are being overrun by all of these drones and Tony's like, duck. Rhodey's like, what? Duck. And he busts out this fucking laser thing and he only gets to do it once. He like, pops out the spent.
Ejects the cartridge,
Cool sequence, but like, Rhodey in very early Marvel fashion is like,
I think you should lead with that next time.
Yeah, sorry, boss. I can only use it once. It's a one-off.
So I kind of have the same type of questions here. It's like if Ultra Magnus could do that, why is he allowing all of these scrubs and grease grunts to get their skid plates kicked in for a few before he decides to intervene on their behalf?
Sure. Well, I wonder. I mean, I guess we don't need to keep going in about this, but I wonder sometimes with those weapon, you see those a lot in movies. That's sort of a trope. Fight ending move. Mm-hmm. You only get to use once. But I do wonder, like if you only get to use it once, then you do kind of have to wait till all your enemies have amassed on you, right? Like maybe you're just kind of holding back until like, has every drone possible come off that assembly line? Okay, right. Now I'm going to do it. What if I waste my one big shot and then 1,500 more come out of the base? So I guess if we're going, I mean, because we haven't seen it, but if we're going off of it does only have one shot, I can see why he waited.
That's a real Matrix Revolution situation there. After they pop the EMP in Zion, it's just like, okay, yeah, they killed everything. Oh shit, there's more. There's more. There you go. You know what? I stand convinced. Well done, my friend.
Well, as you know, I live my life by the Matrix, so it comes out in weird ways.
Whereas I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Oh no! Man. So the battle ends, and this whole sequence kind of rocks because, like, first of all, to the thing that you said, this crystallizes the point you made earlier about. That should be Optimus at Magnus's side instead of Sentinel. That Magnus has settled to have Sentinel Prime at his side because he says this line. It's like, because I forget what Sentinel says, but it's something like,
"You can't honestly believe that. He's a lying, insubordinate crankshaft."
And Ultra Magnus is like, "Tut, tut, tut. No."
He may be a little rough around the edges, but in the heat of battle, Optimus Prime exhibited the qualities of a true leader: strategic thinking, determination, and above all, loyalty. Something you could stand to learn a thing or two about, Sentinel Prime.
And he the thing that I love about the Transformers animated designs is that they have pupils. And that you can really do some cool stuff with the pupils. Yeah. And he gives him this wicked side eye. And he's like, that's something you can learn a thing or two about. And it's like, ooh, yeah.
Right. Not so perfect, are you?
Yeah, in your eye, you prick.
Yeah. It's a awesome moment for Optimus, who we've seen getting his balls busted the whole episode,
the whole time.
Totally. And then we kind of end up with, as I've been alluding to, even after Sari saves her company, Porter C. Powell appears, tells Sari some brutal news. I think this is a great moment, a great cliffhanger here to have at the end of episode 1. Didn't even need it, didn't see it coming, but they shot it off, that not only has she been ousted by the board of Sumdeck Industries, a unanimous vote to be replaced by Powell. Now all his chess pieces have moved into checkmate here. But she also, worst of all, she can't prove she's a Sumdeck.
Yeah.
Not only can she not prove she's a Sumdeck, she can't even prove she exists.
Yeah.
And we have to believe this is what her father was going to tell her before he disappeared.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And I like in this to where Porter C. Powell has like this dossier, this sheet of paper on it, and it's got like Sari's picture on it. It says no data. It's like that's just bad. But what a terrific cliffhanger for this to end on, that this, Sari is just, shook to her core, a 8-year-old girl who has been thrust into the heart of a galactic civil war, custodian of one of their most sacred totems, the Allspark key, and her city is half destroyed, her company is in ruins, and her dad is missing. And just in case she doesn't need any more angst, I mean, you would think that this would be reserved for like a teenager or something like that. Yeah. Oh, by the way, there's no record of you at all. You do not exist. And that's
is there a bigger slap in the face?
No, that is brutal.
Every time we see Porter C. Powell in this episode, it's like that Vince McMahon meme of like getting progressively more excited. And he's just, woo, and you don't fucking exist.
Oh my God, we gotta make that meme. I mean, that is prime for a 2M2F meme for sure. I love it. I love it. And that's the end of the episode. So yeah, I mean, it's like we hit the ground running. So much momentum, so much happens here. And for it to end on a really cool cliffhanger. This is just some terrific television comic book storytelling. What a killer episode. Way to start off strong.
Yeah, I loved it. Right. Really coming out of the gate here. We talked a ton about it. There's not too much I want to get into from the TF Wiki, but I do like to go to TF Wiki to find out the foreign titles for the episodes. This one didn't have a different episode. In Japanese, the title is also the Elite Guard, but over there they have a name for. They must shout it out, but it's a little bit of extra dialogue where Ultra Magnus's attack is called the Magnus Hammer Thunder Attack. When he wipes out the police drones, they actually give it like a little bit of its own title card type of thing.
Oh, that's awesome!
I thought that was really exciting.
I wonder if that's on par with T-Poke, with the poke, Lugnut's attack, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think that was fan made, and I think this might have been like extra dialogue in the Japanese dub.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, that's even cooler.
That proud tradition of yelling out your attack as you do it.
Yeah.
I think it was sort of like a Magnus Hammer Thunder Attack.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. I love it. Well, thanks for researching that. So I think the next thing on the dossier is Mike's G1 score.
Yeah, dust off this old bad boy.
So I again, I not to get too much behind the scenes, but like I do it a couple different ways. Like I kind of like make like ticks as I go, like little hash marks as I see something. And then usually like when I go through again, it's just like, if something like knocks loose or I think about it. But like, so how G1 is this episode? My Olympic scale score for Transformers Animated Season 2, Episode 1, overall Episode 17. My G1 score is a 4.4. Kind of low.
Interesting.
Kind of low. Because, like...
But higher than I thought it was going to be, if I'm being honest.
Well, you got a couple different things. One, you have a legacy character in the form of Jazz. So that's at least a point. And actually, for the fact that we talked a lot already about Phil Lamar's voice work and choices, but like it is meant to evoke that. Whereas other iterations of Jazz are kind of trying to be their own thing. Kind of like I don't think anybody would make a case that the 2007 Jazz is trying to even touch Scatman Crothers, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So like, points for that. We talked about the shuttle. I'd give points for that just because like the design, if not in color, it's very specifically meant for that. Metallicato gets a huge bump. And then a reference that we kind of blew past earlier when Megatron is talking about his machinations, his new plan, where he wants to use space bridge technology to take Cybertron itself, and you see that Cybertron clearly has 2 moons. So I think that's and again, and it's fascinating to me. I wonder if we need to amend the G1 score to specifically a Transformers the movie score, because I mean, again, the thing that you and many of our friends over and over, it's like, trust me on this. TFA is rotten with Transformers the movie references. Like, this show is for you. So seeing a Cybertron with 2 moons and looking at the design of them, actually, that version of Cybertron looks pretty okay. Like in terms of like compared to like 1984's Cybertron with like the whole like bottom corner taken out of it and whatnot. And that was before Unicron showed up. But the moons even look kind of on model for what you would expect 2 of Cybertron's moons to look like. So yeah, that is my my G1 score, 4.4.
Nice. 4.4. I'm really curious to see where your score goes this season. A little bit of foreshadowing, I guess, but this season is a really big dichotomy of intrinsic to the plot of Transformers Animated exclusively, and lots of new characters, new you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Yeah,
we're going to be seeing some things at the same time. So I'm really curious because I feel like every episode from here on out is like, here's this screaming reference to the 80s, and also here's a plot point that couldn't exist anywhere else.
Gotcha. Which is what I've grown to really appreciate and truly love about TFA, because it seems to like thread that needle deftly and better than most other iterations. Like, most are either so violently different that they're unrecognizable to G1ers, or it's just blatant G1 rehash, which I have found for my interest, I'm not interested in either of those things. I want something that walks that razor's edge, which is again part of why I've been so very satisfied with my journey with TFA so far.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Ooh. Well, before we get out of here, there's only one thing left to do. We gotta turn down the lights.
Yes. Dim it, everyone. Everyone hush now for my preview haiku.
The Here return, please. It's the return of the Michael Anders preview haiku, a prequel, if you will.
Everyone's been waiting for, right?
That's what I've been waiting for. It's one of my favorite bits. I love it.
So here we go. Daughter on her own. With the elites still in town, no time to lose heads.
Jazz hands.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Jazz hands. That's fun this episode.
Oh my God, yes. As he just swirling nunchucks.
Yeah. Let's get the jazz chucks. Forget the hands.
Jazz chucks.
Jazz chucks.
Where it's just the sound of whirling nunchucks.
Yes. Oh, love it.
Master of the whirling nunchakus.
Well, I know about you, baby, but I think we're back.
Hell yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah, man. No, good stuff, man. Oh yeah, and make good choices and eat pizza and all that other stuff.
And bye.
Pistols at dawn. Since we're stealing everybody else's shit too.
Haven't trademarked it yet, boys. Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Big mistake. Big. Huge. I have to go shopping now.
Oh, that's what it is. It'll be like they go to like copyright Autopod Decepticast. And it's like copyright 2 Mikes 2 Furious LLC.
Yeah. Here we go. All the URLs from GoDaddy.
Want to be a guest on the show? Send us an email, 2mikes2furious@gmail.com. Interact with us on social media. You can follow 2 Mikes 2 Furious on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 2 Mikes 2 Furious.
You are Mike. You